the ability to ask pertinent questions. And that's something that came later when I first got into the space, because as you can tell, I'm very passionate about personal development and communication. You just want to give it to them. Oh man, let me tell you, this is so great. and I do that on my videos, in my content. Oh man, this is so exciting. And that's the place for it. But one of the things I learned that took my facilitation to the next level, took my coaching to the next level, I believe, and that's the feedback that I've received, is my ability to ask pertinent questions. And I have to credit my mentor, Terrence Donahue. He said something to me that I never forgot. He said, do you want to be the sage on the stage, or do you want to be the guide on the side? And I had never heard that up to that point. And I said, that's interesting. And he said, don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for everything. Yep. When you're doing a keynote speech or something like that, that's the time for doing it. But as you train people, if you're doing a workshop, if you're coaching, at that point is the ability to ask questions. And you won't know what those questions are unless you are paying attention to what are people saying. What are they saying verbally? What are they saying with their eyes? What are they saying with their body? What are they saying with them not saying anything? And understanding that until you get them to say something, then you really don't know what they're thinking.
There is a small nuance in there that I want to point out to make sure that everyone picks up on. When you talked about the ability of asking questions, you didn't just say, I ask questions. You ask pertinent questions. That's really important, that pertinent point of that, because coming out of a sales and sales leadership background, I can't tell you how many times I've been in meetings with sales reps where they're just asking questions because they're the questions that they prepared ahead of time that they ask in every single sales call. And because they're just so focused on the questions that they prepared, they're not listening. They're missing out on key opportunities where a client has just shared something very powerful, very meaningful, where we may be able to help them out dramatically, and they just blow right by it because they had this list of preconceived questions or pre-prepared questions in their head they needed to check the box and to get through. And I see it now, even in my current role, as I'm meeting with outside vendors for potential products and solutions and services for the company, where they're just going through the checklist. They're not really listening to what I'm saying, the challenges that I'm having. Like, okay, yep. And then it's almost like next, check, next, check. So that ability to ask pertinent questions is very powerful. And it goes back to a lot of what we talked about, listening, right? You've prepared, you've eliminated those distractions, and you're actively listening so you can process, take the time, and then really dig in with those meaningful questions.